Okay, today we're going to talk about the Scavenger job in Star Traders Frontiers. This is the wiki that we have open here. The Scavenger is a very interesting job because it isn't really required for any activities other than the somewhat rare salvaging operations, orbital salvaging. Orbital salvaging is extremely dangerous and is made a lot safer with a Scavenger and more profitable. But otherwise, they're kind of an oddball class. You'll see their primary skills are Explore, which can help if you don't have a whole lot of Explorers or Exoscouts. Now, their secondary skill is Repair, which plays into a lot of their talents. Some builds really need Repair, others are fine without a whole lot of extra Repair. And their tertiary is Doctor, which you don't get out of a lot of jobs. And so it's kind of nice to have a support job that can give you some Doctor skill, even if it's not a ton, without it just being your combat medic that you always bring into fights. You can start a captain as a scavenger profession, and they get a couple captain starting traits, but you can also acquire scavengers through a number of contacts. The starting captain traits are not my favorite for the scavenger, but that's partly because I'm not a salvaging expert. The two traits they get are Junker. Every remnant of scrap has a use, fixes 2 ship components up to repair skill whenever salvaging a destroyed ship or drawing a salvage card that grants credits. Salvaging a destroyed ship is a very common operation for combat captains, so that could be kind of handy if you needed some post-repair for free. But the salvage card grants credits. I suppose if you're doing a lot of salvaging operations, the odds of you having a damaged ship along the way are pretty high, especially if you have components that increase your salvage rewards, then those get damaged as they're used, so that could be pretty handy. Nothing game-breakingly good, though, or even approaching that. Roughneck. This is the stronger of the two traits that you get. Rough but durable and approachable. 2 bonus fortitude, 2 bonus wisdom, and gains a 10% chance to learn a salvage rumor when spicing. This makes it so you can have an entire playthrough that very early on is able to acquire salvage rumors, and depending on your map size, quickly go to them and take advantage of that salvaging game and get into the high risk situations early in your playthrough without having to do a whole lot of building up your contacts and resources so that you can afford salvage rumors. So that's really the strength here, is being able to do salvage operations as that profession straight away. But let's assume that it's not just a starting captain, but it's just someone that you want on your crew, whether it be an officer or just a dedicated crew member to the salvaging job, or scavenging job. I'll probably make that mistake several times. Let's see. Hey Sparta, nice to see you in the chat. For the first rank talents you get to choose from, you have Pick Clean. While salvaging at an orbital, increase cargo rewards by 10% plus Explore skill. This is very specific to just salvaging, but the rewards that you can get from cargo can be pretty substantial. Oh yeah, to unlock this, you can't start a game with the Scavenger as your starting profession for your captain, unless you have finished the Derivish plot line, and there's an achievement associated with that you need to unlock, and then you will get this profession as an option. Probably to keep people from new players from starting a game with one of the more difficult captain types. Although they certainly didn't do that with the Xeno Hunter, so I don't know. Alright, Artful Solder. Is that how you say that word? Solder? Swelder? Nah. This is a repair save. You usually have repair saves with other crew members. Sometimes a repair save usually isn't a huge deal. I have noticed that failed repair saves tend to hurt morale a whole lot more than your ship components. Maybe that's my experience, but it seems to be the case that they hurt morale more than they ought to, or at least disproportionate, maybe not ought to. So it can be handy if you need it. It's not a big deal. I probably wouldn't prioritize getting a scavenger just for a repair save. Calculated Search. This is probably a really good pick for salvage operations, as you can get a reroll, which will save you from like a double Xeno battle or something terrible like that. And since you can get this right at your first level and first rank, you can immediately start salvaging with some assurance of better security. Sparta chimes in that this one is much deadlier than Xeno Hunter. Xeno can be manipulated, but only one card can. Yeah, you can. That's a good point. Alright, and this is a little different option here. Rather than taking the salvaging priority, you can go into Diamond in the Debris. When exploring a wild zone, increase reward by 10% plus Explore skill. Same reward level, but this is for a much easier, more approachable operation. So in general, this is a good talent to pick overall, but if you're getting a scavenger, you probably want to be doing salvaging anyway, so what's the point of doing a whole bunch of exploring? Come back and pick up this talent when you need extra explorer rewards. At rank 5, they get a little more interesting of options, quite a bit more powerful. You have Careful Eva, which is giving you a removal of a card and salvaging an orbital. Because so many of the risk cards with salvaging are just atrociously bad, just so bad, being able to just completely remove one rather than just re-rolling it and hoping you don't get something worse, that's considerably more powerful. This is a much stronger delta between a removal and a re-roll than any other operation card. We've got Picky Looters here. While salvaging at an orbital, replace a risk card with a credit-bearing salvage card. This is comparable in power. Now, you get some money out of this one, whereas this increases the odds of you getting the remaining cards. It ensures you get the remaining cards. The trick is, if there's something you really want on one of the reward cards, you use this to get rid of your nastiest risk. If there's something that you kind of want, but you really just want a different hand, go ahead and use Picky Looters. It'll remove a card, but it keeps it dilutes your chances of getting the other rewards, but offers an alternative here. Alright, we've got Lightfoot Tracker. This is, again, the kind of exploring path that you can have while exploring a wild zone. Remove a risk card. Stronger than... actually, he doesn't have a reroll for exploration, so this is the first exploration card they get. Now, here's one that's a bit different. This is a post-boarding talent. Boarding success talent, you boarding a foe. Cascading Destruction. After a successful boarding, rapidly sabotaging a nearby component causes 40 plus repair skill % in damage. I don't care for this one. It seems neat, but you are dealing moderate damage, that is, until rank... Actually, at no rank, without a skill bonus, will you be able to take a component from 0% damage to inoperable. So by itself, it cannot disable anything. You get a second component that gets hurt, and you hope that it gets hit by collateral damage in your next hits or something. Or you already have damaged several of things lightly, and that might push them up to another level. Yeah, Wrench does a lot more the engineering, or not engineering, the mechanic post-boarding talent. This is probably my very least favorite boarding talent of everyone in the game. I do not think this is very powerful. I think 13 weeks cooldown. Maybe they all have 13 weeks cooldown. I haven't checked. I do not recommend this talent unless you have no other post-boarding talents and you're at range 1, so you're able to use your Scavenger, or you're crazy enough that you have cross-trained an officer to also have a Scavenger job up to rank 5. Whatever, if you do that. Very strange. Alright, rank 8, we have Patchwork. While exploring a wild zone, replace a risk card with a ship repairs card. This is what it says on the tin. However, your ship doesn't generally get as damaged during exploration as it does during salvaging, so the utility isn't too great here. I find these, if it's not giving me money, but it's a conditional thing, like maybe it heals me, maybe it repairs a ship, it's not great, because this card only has value, a lot of value, when your ship is damaged and you need a replacement, and you don't want to replace it with just hard removal. So if you don't need to repair your ship, you just have a crappy hand because you have a no operation card, something that does nothing, and kind of a waste of a hand, waste of your turns in the game. So situational, it could be handy, but definitely this is not your primary explorer guy. This is kind of augmenting an exploring team. Dogged Treatment is pretty fancy. It's just a doctor skill save. Notice it has a worse cooldown than normal doctor saves. This is basically half the power because you only use it every 6 weeks instead of every 3. But having an extra skill save, even if it does take a while to get to at rank 8, can really be helpful, especially if you've started out with a rather common strategy of taking your starting doctor and cross-training him as a combat medic to get 2 doctor saves. If that doctor dies, it's really nice to have some backup skill saves, and maybe you haven't been just stacking doctors because you want a little more utility than just doctor skill. Scavenger would be a good choice. I am very frequently finding myself picking this skill save and being very grateful that I have this backup save for doctor. Doctor skill save fails, or doctor skill fails So terrible. Second worst in the game. Redemption Purge. This is similar to, I think this is a mirror of the mechanics skill. I think they have comparable levels of repair even, so very, very similar to what the mechanic has. Purges ship of any crippling ship effects, that's great. And also gives you repair, 10% plus repair skill to 2 to 4 ship components. Very good if you need to get rid of those crippling ship effects. The repair is quite nice on top, but remember, you need to be preventing future damage is more important than restoring previous damage. Yeah, Redemption Purge is one of the best removal of crippling effects cards. It's just it's no different than mechanics as far as I can tell. All right, rank 11 we have Rescue Mission. While salvaging at an orbital, replace a mission success reward card. Replace a risk with, man, I could not have stumbled that much more. While salvaging at an orbital, replace a risk with a mission success reward card. There we go. This card isn't very helpful because currently, as far as I know, in the game there are no mission success or any salvaging mission cards. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to edit that out, am I? That was just stumbling for an entire minute. Because this isn't in the game yet, don't recommend it. Once there are missions that require you to salvage, this is going to be a very, very sweet card. Very good talent to select. I hope they release that content soon. If I'm mistaken, then darn. But at this time, I do not believe there are any salvaging missions. And so that leaves you to choose this at rank 11, Scrappy Recovery. When exploring a wild zone, replace a risk card with a Scrappy Healing card. This is the exact same problem as Patchwork, but instead of being your crew has to be damaged, your ship has to be damaged, your crew has to be damaged. That's a little more common for me because there's more ground fighting in crew combat, or in exploring with the crew combat there, than I am failing explore saves, which is what explore tests, which is what causes your ship to be damaged. So Scrappy Recovery really is a little more valuable, but if I am going to be exploring and I have an injured crew, injured enough where I care about it, enough to select a card that heals, potentially, I don't want there to be any risk of me getting into crew combat with something else and hope that I get my healing card. So either I'm going back and I'm healing, or I don't care enough to bother with it, making this also not that great. Maybe there are niche cases, people have playstyles where they're able to make Scrappy Healing make sense. Maybe if you have no permadeath on and no one can die, it just sucks to go back into combat with a really low combat crew. You won't lose anyone, but you won't win. In which case, sure, but I don't really play on really low difficulties, so it doesn't really appeal to me. Maybe it's very good if you're playing on normal or basic. Alright, and Master Reclamation. This is the best card that they'll have access to, the best talent. Note the 21-week cooldown, which is pretty hefty. But when you're salvaging an orbital, reroll all 5 cards, draw a new hand. And as with all of these, replace all the card talents. You can then follow up with something else, like, say, Calculated Search. So you're not restricted to just getting whatever the new hand is blind. You can reroll it, give it a shot. So Master Reclamation is the way to take a hand that is just unplayable because it's got, double Xeno here, double Fatality here, horrendous contact reputation damage, just bad things all throughout. Get rid of that, try again. You have to deal with the cooldown, which may make getting more than one Scavenger really important if you are doubling down into orbital ops on salvage, but it's very powerful. I think that's where you really unlock the ability to get lots of profits in salvaging safely.